It is the year 2472, and the Earth has suffered a great calamity. Hundreds of years of popular culture have vanished. Without the sacred films and texts for guidance, civilization is devoid of anything cool. Then, 3 incubation chambers are unearthed, and from within, men from the time of the great blockbusters emerge. Now, through highly interesting conversations, they share invaluable insight about what once was. The movies, the shows, the comics, toys, and books. This is
The Hyperspace.
Podcasting in the 25th century.
Welcome in, podcast pioneers, to the hyperspace, podcasting in the 25th century, the interweb's first and only podcast. My name is Jared.
My name is Matt.
And I'm Mike.
You know, guys, sometimes topics for the podcast elude us.
It's true.
But sometimes...
As hard as that may be to believe.
Yeah, can you believe it? But sometimes they fall right in our lap. It's a gift.
It's true.
And as we record this show, it is December 11th, 2020, as measured in the old calendar. Yesterday, on December 10th, around about 6 p.m., I started seeing the craziest stuff I've ever seen. And it started when Mike sent a story that said, "Whoa, what's this alien TV show?" And I clicked Mike's link. It took me to the Alien Facebook page. And when I was on Facebook, I saw something else. And it said, Ahsoka. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. And I refreshed. And then I saw an animated logo for Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I'm like, what?
It just kept coming.
It didn't stop.
No.
So today, this entire episode is just going to be straight up news on the interwebs.
News from the interwebs.
All right, so this is going to be a rare current events podcast for the hyperspace as we talk about some of the things that were revealed at the Disney Investors Conference yesterday.
Man, it was unbelievable what kept coming out.
I had no idea this was even happening yesterday.
Yeah, when all this stuff started coming out, I'm like, is there like some kind of celebration I didn't
Okay,
know
well,
about?
exactly.
It's funny. It's funny because we were just talking the other day about the Obi-Wan series still being kind of up in the air. You know, when is it going to get made? Is it going to get made? Is it going to get pushed back? And then to see the level of commitment that Disney has just thrown down to what they plan to pump out is unbelievable.
It's by far the biggest Star Wars info dump ever done, even surpassing anything they've done at any of the conventions or any of the celebrations or anything like that. I mean, at a celebration, they may, a few years ago they had a one where they announced Kenobi and they showed the trailer for Mandalorian and the trailer for Rise of Skywalker. And that was considered quite a big deal. Like, hey, look, we got big news. We got 3 new things on the way here. This just it's coming and coming.
Why don't we go through the list of what they released?
All right. Let's talk about these projects. Like I was saying, I think maybe I sent it to the group yesterday, but, I would say there's a good chance that not everything we've seen is going to ever see the light of day.
I mean, maybe.
They threw so much out there. So, but we'll see. Apparently, Disney is now completely all in on streaming, and they could give a crap about theatrical releases.
Well, before we talk
I
about
don't know
this
why. I can't.
Yeah. If we're looking at like The Mandalorian, for example, which is a spectacular hit right now. I mean, every Star Wars fan in the world is obsessed with The Mandalorian for good reason. And Jared just told me yesterday, or maybe today, that season 3 premieres Christmas Day in 2021, over a year from now.
Yes.
And I will wait eagerly for that show to come a whole year. So Disney's got, a year to fill in these shows between seasons.
Mhm.
So they're going to be stacking, one show's going to end, the next show's going to pick up. I can see how they're going to do this. It's going to be an interlocking content web, which I'm never going to be able to, work or leave the house again.
An interlocking content web. Well, they very well could do that. Like, for example, right now, AMC, of course, they run the flagship Walking Dead show for a season, and then they do a season of the spin-off shows,
Right.
and they just keep it on the air like that. And I can totally see that happening with the way this is set up. But getting into the nitty-gritty here, I think the first one we should talk about is Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi is the name of the show. No points for originality, but certainly gets the point across.
I think some of the news they released with Obi-Wan. Well, first off, Obi-Wan, of course, we're all super excited about. Ewan McGregor announced a long time ago that he's going to be,
It was
leading
rumored.
the show.
The thing about that, it was like forever. It was
Yeah,
like
of
a
course.
rumor.
There was always the hope and the rumors that would come around.
And it
Oh,
was
Ewan McGregor's going to be. No, he's not.
But he always
But
had
then it
like
was.
apparently he'd always been very like, oh yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah,
But it was
he's
never
part-
confirmed.
He was
I mean, that's a lot like Tamora Morrison talking about Boba Fett when you read articles. He's like, I was hoping they'd call me. And then the call came. So, but we all, we were very excited when Obi-Wan was announced and kind of put off when it was delayed a bit. But it's okay. The Mandalorian is taking the right mantle for Star Wars right now to kick off these streaming shows. But Ewan McGregor alone made me very excited about the possibilities of the show. But the news they dropped about the Obi-Wan show yesterday just took it to a whole nother level.
Well, we found out that someone else is coming back to Star Wars who
I didn't think would be back because there was rumors they might be in Rise of Skywalker. Skywalker.
what are you drinking, Ray? What is that?
That is Black Cherry Clear American.
Okay.
So, but
He showed up in voice form only.
yes. And remember, he was supposed to be on some panel, and they whisked him away.
Yeah, him
before
and Ian McDermott were supposed to be on a panel together, and Lucasfilm told them to cancel it.
That's right. So who are we talking about?
Hayden Christensen, infamous and much maligned. Poor
Yeah,
Hayden.
I mean,
But you know what? I think he's gonna get a whole lot more love this time around.
I think you're right. The prequels have had time to marinate, and for people to really adore and miss them, and they become a big part of the Star Wars DNA, especially for people younger than us. The prequels are some of their first entry points to Star Wars, and listen, I mean, we all had our problems with Hayden's performance. We all thought he was a little bit wooden, but maybe we can chalk some of that up to some bad dialogue he was having versus his-
Hayden. Hey,
And
Hayden.
also, I think Lucas is a very hands-off director.
Hey, listen.
sad.
Hey,
Because
what do
if
you?
you look at Natalie Portman, her performances aren't.
I like to look at
necessarily-
Natalie
Sad is the
Portman.
worst.
What do you mean I'm hands off? I like to put my hands on, right on her butt.
It figures that the only big celebrity we get on this show is George Lucas.
Well,
He always gets out of control.
I like listening to you guys. You guys stole my hyperspace name. You might as well let me. let me have some airtime on it.
Well, you can throw some dough our way.
Hey, George, get out of here! Oh, yeah, go to hell. I'll see you.
But no, Hayden certainly had his. Look, we loved and hated Hayden, and I think as he gets further away from us in the prequels, the more we love him. And I'm really excited to hear that he's coming back to play Darth Vader during the show.
Absence indeed makes the heart grow fonder. And look, we know they didn't hire him to walk around in the suit.
Right.
Because in that case, they could have just, like they did for Rogue One, just hire a big dude to put the suit on. So, are we going to be seeing Hayden flashbacks?
Oh, I think he's too old for that. I mean, I guess they could euthanize
Oh,
him.
well. Again,
But,
Kurt Russell.
Yeah, euthanize him?
Euthanize.
Yes.
You know, after watching
Hey,
Attack of the Clones, some people would agree with that statement.
But
I mean, I don't know what they're gonna do with Hayden, but I think
bet
you're gonna
he'll be,
see some.
I bet he'll be scarred up and
Yeah,
we'll see
sure.
him
I think
without
so.
the
We're going to
helmet
see him, you think, some meditation chamber action there?
I think that's where you'll get to see his face. And you know what it is? It's really you know it's Hayden, and that's all that matters. That you have that connective tissue all of a sudden. And even if he's just a few minutes where you see his face, it's still Hayden, and it's still Anakin, and it's still Darth Vader.
Yeah.
So that's part of the smart moves I'd like to think that they're making in these streaming shows, that they're giving the fans a lot of that good connective tissue, that fan service.
So what you just said, I really feel like, and this is based on all the announcements that Jared will be listing, but I mean, it's like with The Mandalorian, Disney's found its sweet spot in the timeline, and after some of the missteps with the sequel trilogy, I think this is like, I don't know if somebody marched into Kathleen's office and you got to fix this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It may have
I
even
think
been
you're
George.
absolutely right.
Hey,
I mean-
hey, Kathy, get over
I
here.
think
What have you
he's
been
pissed.
doing?
I think he's pissed at her. He's probably never going to speak to her.
I mean, listen, from what we're going to go over tonight in the podcast today, the announcements, the white space in the original trilogy kind of timeline is all going to be filled up. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know what's going to be left.
You're thinking
I mean,
between episode 3 and episode 4.
I think between episode 3 and past Jedi, because of the Mandalorian,
Correct.
all of that timeline white space that exists is going to be filled up with something. I mean, they're really exploiting it all right now. It's great. I love
Yeah.
all of it. I'll take it all.
Well, we don't know much else about. We know a timeline. It's 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. So we will see. I'm hopeful. I hope.
Is Mandalorian 10? I thought it was 5.
Well, Mandalorian
Oh, no.
is.
I'm thinking
6.
Revenge of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Right, Return of the Jedi, sorry.
Yeah, Mandalorian's 5 years after
Confused.
Return of the Jedi.
So, speaking of which, I wonder if we'll get a little McDermott and Obi-Wan.
Oh, that's certainly possible. I mean, if you've got Hayden and Vader, why wouldn't you have Ian McDermott? I mean, the good thing about it.
proven his willingness to return.
Well, the good thing about it was the first time we saw him in 1983, they made him up to look 150. So any time he's probably, he's definitely now in his mid 70s. I mean, they could just, put a few flaps of skin on him and boom, there he. I mean, we saw him last year. He's
Yeah.
still got it. So yeah, bring him back. But I think the Obi-Wan show is probably what I'm most excited about of the announcements. And it is a limited series as of now.
6? Is that what it is? 6 episodes?
I don't think they specified the episode count, but it is a limited series. So
I mean, even if it's 6 episodes, that's like an Obi-Wan movie right there. So
oh yeah, of course. And Ewan McGregor, of course, one of the bright spots of the prequels for sure. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. And
yeah, absolutely.
Deborah Chow, who is directing the series, did some of the best Mandalorian episodes of season 1. So I had never heard of her before the Mandalorian, but after seeing her stuff, I'm like, yeah, go kill it. So
Exactly. What else was announced? What other shows?
let's see, going down the list here, something that could possibly be happening in the same time period. Another limited series is Lando. Now, Matt, I thought of you when I heard this announced. Is this the Solo follow-up that we kind of want? It's certain.
I mean-
if it's Donald Glover, and I think it
Yes.
is,
Yes.
it was his name was not announced, but I think there is certainly an opportunity here to explore those story threads.
Man, I certainly hope so. I mean, Solo got, I think, a bad rap. I mean, we all collectively on the podcast like Solo a lot.
Yeah.
And the more I watch it, the more I like it even more. And I thought Lando, Glover was very well cast as Lando. I thought he was great. But, some of the most interesting parts of Solo, you really found out at the very end of the movie, especially with Maul.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff I want to see. I want to see the underbelly of Star Wars. That's my big thing. I like the grittiness and the underbelly of it. And to have Maul so close to you and not give him live action in any other way except that is just, it's not enough.
No.
I need more Maul. And if this is my kind of show for Maul, because you're not going to get him in Obi-Wan.
No.
And if you do, it's not going to be that kind of focus. But if I can get him in the Lando show as a key player, man, are you kidding me?
Yeah. And
It'd be amazing.
And looking at everything that's been, all the titles that were announced, Lando is the closest we get to something like that. And, I've also heard in the rumor mills of the internet that this show could be almost like the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, with Billy D. Williams also starring in the series.
Oh, where he opens
set
up.
Post Rise of Skywalker.
That'd be cool.
And he'd be
I
like,
that.
I remember this time I was out on this planet.
Yeah, I mean that gives you a big connector right there. That bridges all kinds of stuff.
And then
And-
they could cut those Billy D scenes out when they release it on Blu-ray.
Just like they did. Yeah.
Hey, Chewbacca, I remember when we would go in the desert, we saw
But-
those bright yellow lights.
But there's also, like you say, there's white space to fill in
Yeah.
for Lando. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing him win Cloud City. That'd be pretty.
Yeah.
We already saw him
Yeah.
lose the Falcon.
That's true.
So we'll see. It's set in that time period that we're talking about. It's between the trilogies. It's familiar ships. It's a familiar, the Empire's probably going to be around.
Yeah,
So-
it's scratching that itch that Ryan Johnson put in every Star Wars fan's back.
The venereal
Finally.
disease
That's the,
known as Ryan Johnson.
yeah, that's the outbreak you get from time to time.
But,
that you have to get.
it's
treated.
I guess Glover is about the same age as Billy D was when he played Lando.
Well, he's in his mid.
maybe a little younger.
He's in his mid 30s. I think Billy D was already maybe in his 40s, 40 by
Was
the
he?
time he played Lando. But
I mean, not far off though.
No.
So he's right there. But no, Lando. Listen, if they can pull off Lando and they can expand into that universe a little bit more, fantastic. Are
yeah,
you kidding me?
and an opportunity maybe to see Han and Chewbacca from the Solo film again. So
Oh, yeah. And that's something that we kind of speculate on with the Carbonite Chronicles with the Mandalorian is that how are we going to get some of the main title characters into those kind of shows, and some of the no-brainer ways are Chewbacca and C-3PO and R2-D2, of course,
Yeah.
because anybody can
They
play
always-
those in any
They're
yeah.
always like the connectors.
exactly. But it's just when are you going to see him? But yeah, listen, Lando, what a great announcement too.
so
Huge.
That one was surprising to me because I didn't know because Danny Glover is kind of doing his own thing now. So
Donald
to hear
Glover.
that
Danny
sorry.
Glover's a very old man.
Donald Glover.
getting too old for this shit.
No, he's the one who fought the Predator now. But
Yeah.
So anyway,
Oh, he was in part 2. Yes.
So he
Odd choice, by the way, but
anyway, that one was the biggest surprise of all the announcements. That and the Hayden Christensen returning.
Yeah.
huge.
Well, so we speaking of the Mandalorian, there are 2 series announced that take place concurrently with the Mandalorian, and those are Ahsoka and Rangers of the New Republic. Of course, Ahsoka, it was a no-brainer when we watched that show with her a few weeks ago. I think all of us were like, okay, well, this is going somewhere. And we all said, maybe the Mandalorian is not the place where this story plays out. So I think it's obvious this show is going to be her search possibly for Thrawn and Ezra. And, maybe we'll see some of these Rebels characters in live action form.
Yeah. When Rebels came out, when it first came out, I was kind of skeptical if I was going to enjoy it. It was a little juvenile, like the animation in some regards. I mean, they had some great moments. Every kind of like ship and landscape was fantastic, but I thought it was a little like, it wasn't as developed as the Clone Wars. It was a little more kind of like less cerebral, more action.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to tell you, Rebels became one of my favorite shows from Star Wars. I thought Rebels was great.
Yeah.
And as the seasons continued, it just got better and better. And some of the characters that we got to see, like Thrawn and Ezra became a great character. So, I mean, I'm really looking forward to chasing some of these people down again and seeing them.
I agree.
Well,
And seeing them live action would just be unbelievable.
well, too, but also the fact is that how popular Ahsoka became. I think that it's almost like, oh well, finally, she's getting her own thing. Because to be honest, I enjoyed Rebels. I think it's that thing when you have new characters. There wasn't really any characters that we were familiar with from the movies, and it was like when you see R2 in Phantom Menace, when Ahsoka shows up on Rebels, you're like, oh, okay, here we go. Now we're full on Star Wars.
That's one of your favorite sayings, Mike. Whenever you're watching like a franchise type movie, not necessarily Star Wars either, but you say you have your R2 moment where you're not sure at first, but then you see something familiar and you're like, oh, okay. And
it's safe to like,
and it grounds you in that world.
Yeah, it reels you in.
Yeah,
because the whole first 10 minutes of Phantom Menace, okay, there's Obi-Wan, but he's young. R2, here we go. All right.
Yeah, R2 is really the first recognizable kind of face that we see,
and he's R2. He behaves like R2.
Right.
Sure.
But Rebels was the first show. I don't think that Clone Wars delved into it this way, but Rebels made a very conscious effort to include a lot of like the original Ralph McQuarrie kind of like designs, and really, really, really worked them in, and even toys they worked into their animation. That there was a lot of familiar
that's the
fan
Filoni
stuff.
touch.
Exactly, and that's listen. We can sing praises for Filoni all day long about how he, really does the stuff for the fans. But Rebels was the first kind of go at it where I felt like, wow, as a fan, I'm really like everything I'm seeing here, I'm loving. And there was a reason for it. It was very, specific and very engineered, but it was good. And that's what I want to see from Ahsoka. I want to see that kind of, the same touch I'm getting in The Mandalorian. I believe I'm going to see in Ahsoka, so I can't wait.
Dave Filoni obviously is involved in this show as well, and him and Favreau are involved in the Rangers of the New Republic.
Now, what is that? I have no idea what that is.
You know what? I think this...
It's literally just about, that old man and Filoni flying around to different, Wawas and getting, like, sandwiches in the universe.
It's just those two guys in their X-Wings.
It's like the Odd Couple. That's all
They're
it is.
just like, okay, let's harass this guy now. Okay.
I don't know what I'm going to see from the Rangers of the Republic. I don't know. We'll see.
Well,
But I guess that's really... I'm assuming it's the exact same timeline as The Mandalorian.
It is.
Like a Lord of the Rings crossover? Like
yeah, they got Strider there. And well, now Kathleen Kennedy did say when she was discussing Ahsoka and the Rangers show that apparently they would all, and The Mandalorian, the three series would all intersect at certain points. So you'd have like a crossover event or something like that.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's like when the Dukes of Hazzard gets on like Knight Rider.
Yeah, something like that. Exactly.
And
well,
they solve a crime together.
Perhaps, but yeah, it's
That's what they need to do. They have to solve a crime together. They have to solve a crime. That's what has to happen.
it's a big crime. So, but hey, anything they're involved with, the two Fs, Favreau and Filoni.
Cancel out the 2Ks.
Yeah, I'm all in, and I'm
of course I agree.
I have complete faith that it'll be great. So
Did they announce a standalone Boba Fett show?
they did not.
See,
Surprisingly,
that's something that was rumored heavily,
Yes.
but was not announced.
That's true.
So maybe they're holding some stuff back just to surprise the fans with. I don't know.
It's possible.
I'm hoping
Now-
because
What I'm hoping, like you said, is that doesn't happen in the season finale of The Mandalorian. I hope Boba is not killed, and they're saving the announcement to soften the blow. Oh, it's okay. Well, he died, but he's got a show coming up. Okay.
Listen, I told you my gut on that one with the Razor Crest being
No.
destroyed in the Mandalorian and the Slave One back in business. I think Boba's days are numbered again.
And I think
But
that's a very astute observation.
I just can't.
you can't lose him again, can you?
No, I think it's too soon.
Well, I remember.
As I told our listener Craig, you guys are on crack with that one.
No. Well, as I recall, Mike, I believe you said there's no way they're going to kill off Harrison Ford in Force Awakens. There's no way. They just got him back. They're not going to kill him off.
I don't remember saying that.
You said that.
I don't think that's true.
So
So what else was announced?
let's see. Now I have to look at the list. You expressed some apathy towards this yesterday, but
Oh, okay.
I thought the sizzle reel was quite cool.
Oh.
That's the Cassian Andor show.
Hey, look, Cassian is a fine character, and Rogue One is hands down one of my favorite Star Wars movies. And I didn't dislike him in it, but I wasn't drawn to really just watch a show about him. But you made a great point that the time period it takes place in is really, really an interesting time in the Star Wars timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really, I can't wait to get access to that
Mm-hmm.
and to see what's going on pre-rebellion, because I think that's an amazing time. And that's why Rogue One to me was it was right. It was the right movie at the right time. And that's why it's number 4 on my list of Star Wars movies, because it was just perfect for what it was. So yeah, I'm happy to get in that timeline. I'm just not overly excited to follow Cassian around.
Well, I think the thing, obviously K9, is that the robot's name?
K2SO.
K2SO, I don't know what K9. Oh,
That's Doctor Who.
So,
Did you know that wasn't me?
there's
Yes.
going to be some Daleks in there. But the thing that Rogue One introduced into the Star Wars lore, as far as films, that the good guys aren't always good guys. And I think that's something that could be interesting to explore on this show, because obviously he's carrying, because they even use the line when he's looking for, talking about looking for redemption. So I mean, we could get into some kind of dark material here with him on
Yeah,
this
you're
show.
right. Yeah, you're
Well, he
absolutely
did
right.
murder another rebel in cold blood at
Jeez,
the beginning.
No kidding. He's gonna slow me down.
No, he's just like, hey, it's okay, calm down. Blast. But interestingly enough, I see on the casting here, we have Stellan Skarsgård, who, of course, he was in a few Thor movies and Avengers films,
Sure.
and Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma.
Is that the same actress?
It's the same actress who played her in Rogue One.
That's amazing that she's been able to have a career
based
from
on a deleted scene.
Deleted scene.
A deleted scene.
Yeah. So
It's amazing.
with the inclusion of the Genevieve O'Reilly character, I think, we're going to really see more, in that Rebels era that we all enjoyed, but in live
Yeah.
action. So
Yeah, and if I can see the birth of the rebellion and the seeds of the rebellion and how it started, that's great.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I think that's a perfect white space to fill right
Yeah.
now. I can't wait.
and this
I take it back. I can't wait for that show.
and it
Get it out right
production kicked off 3 weeks ago in London. So they are deep into filming this.
Isn't that, it's great to hear that stuff is happening, in these times. And we talked about this on The Mandalorian, how, season 2 was basically edited in people's homes
Mm-hmm.
from their houses to get this out. But that's what's so amazing right now. They've got great budgets for these shows, and they've got people with technology and capabilities that can do this stuff from their house. Nothing can stop these shows now. It's just amazing.
And that new, again, we keep bringing this up, but that new technology they have for shooting on those sets, like, I know we're not talking about it yet, but that new episode of The Mandalorian, still no idea.
Yeah.
What did they go on location?
Were they actually on a giant juggernaut?
It's true.
No idea. Well, I can't pick it out.
Think, we didn't get really into this right now, but there's been some recent announcements where, is it Warner Brothers or who's releasing all their movies
That's Warner Brothers.
Okay, so Warner Brothers made a big announcement
HBO
that they're
Max.
they're going to partner with HBO Max and do mega releases on HBO Max. And they're going to do some tandem in the theater, but mainly it's going to be an HBO Max kind of headline. So you've got all these streaming services now vying for really good content, because with the movie theaters not doing business and movie production houses not putting movies out into theaters, it's really a free-for-all with these streaming services now. So I can see why Disney is vomiting up all of these shows right now to try and keep the viewers hooked, because by the time a lot of these shows come out, there's going to be a lot of other options on these other streaming services. So it's going to be a whole wild west of who can get the content first right now. So I think, listen, for the fans, I think this is going to be one of the second golden ages, hopefully, knock on wood, of entertainment, because we're seeing high budget, high quality, decent writing, shows coming out, and these streaming services are just eating them up.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right that may have something to do with this gigantic info dump they gave yesterday. And of course, we're not just talking about Star Wars. Marvel also had a equally giant info dump.
Oh yeah, huge.
So yeah, there's definitely going to be some competition here in the coming years on the streaming in the streaming world. So
what do you got next on your list?
Next, we're talking about The Acolyte. It is.
That's another one I have no idea.
I'm reading this from the Star Wars website. It's a mystery thriller that will take the audience into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era.
Oh, interesting.
Which is approximately 200 years before Phantom Menace.
So they're starting to fill that white space up now. They're putting little seeds out for maybe a new trilogy.
They do have quite a few thousand years that they could fill in. And this is another one that's a big question mark. And certainly I'll give it a look. So but it is with all the original trilogy era stuff that we've been seeing and will be seeing, it may be interesting to kind of go back to a prequel kind of world.
I don't disagree, and they certainly have money to throw around and do test projects like this. And where projects like this really are beneficial for Disney is that they can show this, know that they're going to get a built-in audience, but they're going to get a good reaction to see, is this time period resonating with the Star Wars fan enough for us to commit to making movies out of this and to go into bigger projects. And we'll see how it's Star Wars in general responds to seeing time, things back then where things are not going to be familiar. There will be some legend stuff that pops up that, people like yourselves are going to be very keen on, but for the average audience, it's going to be new characters, new locations, new things that, new vehicles that are not familiar, so we'll see. It'll be a new Star Wars show, and we'll see how they respond to it.
We have 2 animated projects here. One's called A Droid Story, and one is called Visions. Now, A Droid Story, it's going to be from Lucasfilm Animation and Industrial Light and Magic. They're actually teaming up to make this. And this is apparently a made-for-TV, a made-for-streaming film. And it's going to be about R2-D2 and C-3PO and they are going to be introducing us to a new droid hero. And this sounds like something that may skew a bit younger. It sounds to me, of course, what comes to mind is droids from the 80s.
Well, also, Dark Horse did a run of comics called Droids, and it's actually when I was first exposed to Killian Plunkett's work, who would go on to work on Rebels
And the Clone Wars.
And I actually enjoyed those comics quite a bit. There was like this one great story. It's like, I just love the story where there was these two little droids and they were always trying to get, I don't know, I don't want to go into it. But anyway, I can't remember specifically, but it was like one issue in like a 6-series run and it was really, really good. But anyway,
And I'm sure those stories were being told in a serious tone in the comic.
nah, they were not cartoony. Well,
See, I hear this premise, and it sounds like to me a little bit. It's gonna be like a little tongue in cheek kind of like not slapstick, but the comedy will be pushed harder than the narrative in a show
Possibly.
like this. So
And
I mean, listen,
one thing you can be assured of is Anthony Daniels will be voicing C-3PO.
well, I'm just gonna
Good for
say
him.
the comics they were really good stories, and they were a balance of C-3PO and R2-D2, and in a world in kind of like maybe a semi-serious story. So I don't know if they follow that mood, it might be something.
I mean, look, it makes perfect sense. I mean, you gotta bring the kids in, and these streaming services are very. I mean, listen, my kids watch Disney Plus like every day.
yeah.
They love Disney Plus, and if they could have a Star Wars cartoon, I guarantee if there's a Star Wars cartoon that I could show them right now, that's what they'd be watching. Because I have a confession. I tried to start Star Wars: A New Hope with my son,
Yeah.
but I did it after he came home from school and he was a little tired and he wasn't quite into it. So I have to replan this now. But if there was a cartoon out, they would be watching it, and that would be their entry point to Star Wars. So I mean, good for them. They should take advantage of it. I good for them.
I'll say this. All Star Wars animation is not a home run. I tried... Well, you can go back to Ewoks and droids in the 80s, and they fell flat on their face.
Right.
I
But
actually liked Droids when it was originally on. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's a different time.
and
it's
in this new era,
Wait, all the
Ewoks.
spirits of the forest grow.
ladies and gentlemen, Mike Doyle with his rendition of Ewoks, the theme song. There's one series I almost completely forget about, and it was called Star Wars Resistance. And it took
never gave it a shot.
It took place concurrently with the events of The Force Awakens. And it centered on this other group of characters. And actually, Poe Dameron he'd kind of come in and he'd dip in and out of the stories. And it was Oscar Isaac doing the voice, so it was kind of cool. But
Did Kylo Ren show up for an episode?
yes, he did.
Was that Driver?
No, it wasn't. But I didn't make it that far. I never made it. I made it through the first season, and it became quickly apparent to myself that I was watching out of obligation, and I wasn't enjoying it. It skewed incredibly young, and it just wasn't interesting to me. And it was telling that it only lasted 2 seasons.
The characters in it were drawn.
They were like
very
cell animation. That
You know what it is? Here's the thing. The further you diverge and get away from actual people in terms of how they're structured,
Mhm.
and the more exaggerated you make them in cartoons, the more the viewer will accept cartoon physics. The more realistic you draw somebody, the less likely it is for a viewer to accept things that are impossible to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's why I think when you start seeing shows like Resistance, where the characters were, exaggeratedly drawn,
Mm-hmm.
right? the beauty of Star Wars is that only a few people have powers in Star Wars. Everything else is raw, believable-esque action per se. But once you start to skew the characters and you start to draw them in that regard, the viewer starts to forget who has powers because everybody is jumping around and taking advantage of cartoon physics. This is how they draw them. Actions are a little exaggerated, and the beauty of Star Wars and the magic of Star Wars kind of gets lost in that regard, if that makes sense.
It's interesting that you mentioned this because the next thing I'm going to talk about could be controversial in that way, and that's Star Wars Visions. This is being made in Japan. These are going to be 10 animated anime shorts from the leading
Animatrix.
I've seen
from the
some
leading
stuff come up.
Japanese anime studios.
Yeah. Listen, I've seen stuff popping up on the internet where they have recreated scenes from the original trilogy
Yes.
through anime. And I'm hoping it's the same people doing it because it's amazing to watch.
Well, and you guys have both seen this. About 10 years ago, there was something that popped up on YouTube. It was a short anime film called TIE Fighter.
Oh,
it's great.
That was amazing.
Now, if that's the kind of stuff they're going to be doing, this could be really cool.
Yeah.
But, for me, anime, as it is for everybody, it's very subjective. And that's not really a style that I'm drawn to. But this will be on Disney Plus, and I will give it a look. Like I said, with this droid story thing and this Visions show, I think these are going to be more possibly experimental and not necessarily stories that exist in canon, but I could be wrong. So, that's one we'll just have to see. I don't know.
See how it goes.
Well, I cannot not mention, of course, The Bad Batch.
Bad.
Did you guys watch that trailer?
Yeah.
I did not yet.
Okay, first of all, this is a direct continuation of the style and look of Clone Wars.
Isn't it funny that when Disney took over, that's the first thing they did was shut down Clone Wars?
Yes.
Boy, that just dogged them. That just
Well,
kept coming back to haunt them.
They had Rebels in the pipeline. They wanted to get rid of Clone Wars so they could put Rebels out and focus on that.
Nobody wants to see that prequel stuff.
This trailer, Matt, and I would encourage you to watch it. This trailer looks as awesome as any of the best Clone Wars stuff there ever was.
Well, I mean, hey, that last season of Clone Wars was minus the middle storyline with Cow Patty and Ahsoka was great. It was really, really, really watchable. Really fun.
Well, fortunately, this seems like it's going to be season 8 of the Clone Wars. It's the same animation style. You'll see in the trailer the Bad Batch witnesses Palpatine's speech dissolving the Republic and establishing the Empire. And after that, they're kind of like, renegades.
I mean, we liked the Bad Batch when we saw them. We thought that they were a really good piece of Star Wars. So, I mean, I think it's great that we get more of them. It'd be fun. And I love the Clone Wars. And even though I wasn't the biggest Clone Wars fan, admittedly, the last season 7, was unbelievable.
Absolutely. And so that actually covers the streaming shows. But there were 2 films announced.
Well, wait a minute. Even though it's not Star Wars, I think we should mention it.
Okay.
That Willow
Oh, yes.
is getting a show as well.
You are great.
Well, it is a prequel.
Willow.
It is a prequel to the Star Wars movies.
Willow was one of those movies where whenever it came on, I didn't have it on VHS, but whenever it came on television, I had to watch Willow. I loved Willow as a kid growing up. And Mad Mardigan with...
You are great.
And who played Mad Mardigan?
It was Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer. was fantastic. I mean, I'm sure right now a friend of ours, friend of the podcast, Charlie, upon the official announcement of that, was
he may be
was going around spreading amazement all over his room.
He may be trying to audition for the part of Mad Mardigan.
It looks just like
I know,
him, my God.
and he he's not all messed up like Val Kilmer.
He could play a young Mad Mardigan, but yeah, I'm excited about Willow. I like that world, and I don't think it really got its just due. And it was Ron Howard, I think, directed that one.
Yes,
and Lucas produced it, of course, and it got lost. It got lost in the fray, and maybe it was just too close to other movies or not far enough away. But whatever the case was, Willow is a gem that just kind of fell in the dirt and got dirty. So I'm glad they're pulling it out and polishing it off.
I remember me and Mike watched Willow a few years ago when he was visiting, and the thing that didn't hold up was the brownies. The shrunk down people, Kevin Pollak and some other guy,
right in the green screen.
Oh,
and just the humor and everything.
Yeah,
it was funny.
It was you could tell that it was. Oh yeah, this is gonna be great. They're gonna love it. He's gonna make. Hey, let him smear some of that tiger poop all over them. It'll be great. They'll go around sniffing each other's butt cracks.
Thank you, George.
I told you to get out of here. Oh, you son of a bitch! I'll get. But
no, I'm excited to see what they do with Willow. I like that world.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty cool. It was a good little, that whole Middle Earth kind of world is fun to delve into, and if they're willing to put some money behind it, I'll watch.
Sure. It. Originally, Lucas was trying to adapt The Hobbit, and he couldn't get the rights, so that's why he made Willow.
Well, it's just kind of the same story that he had when he couldn't get the rights to Flash Gordon, so he made Star Wars. But Willow wasn't quite as successful as Star Wars. So yeah.
Was Howard the Duck before or after?
That was before Willow.
Yeah, I can't believe people are still giving him money to produce movies after that. But anyways, I'm excited for Willow.
Well, he did that. He actually did that as for Friends. He got onto that project because of the people who were making it.
Howard the Duck or Willow?
Howard the Duck. He was trying to help him out.
Hey, Leo Thompson.
Hey, come over here.
All right, where the ducks?
You want to sit on my lap?
Sit on my bill.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm sorry. 2 movies are
all right.
Which movies?
2 movies. We have the untitled Taika Waititi film.
Yes.
Which is, I am not certain. They still don't have a release date for that, but they did announce it, and he is writing it. And I'm sure whatever he does is going to be interesting and perhaps a little crazy.
Yeah.
The next theatrical Star Wars film released is going to be Star Wars Rogue Squadron, which is going to be directed by the director of Monster and Wonder Woman, Patty Jenkins. And that says this story will introduce a new generation of starfighter pilots as they earn their wings and risk their lives in a boundary-pushing high-speed thrill ride and move the saga into the future era of the galaxy. Now, do you think this means a sequel trilogy setting? Or are they just speaking in hyperbole there? And are they...
You thinking this is a standalone, or is this part of a bigger picture?
Well, it is just a movie. And she actually did kind of a cool little announcement video. Her father was an F-4 pilot in Vietnam, and she like idolizes him. So this is going to be her kind of love letter to that.
I mean, listen. I mean, there were some interesting things in like A New Hope where Biggs went off. Instead of going to the academy, he went AWOL and joined the Republic or the Rebellion. And he became a starfighter pilot. I mean, there are. I don't know when they're going to set this movie. I don't know what time period it's going to be in, but it would be interesting to see things like the Rebellion poaching good pilots or young pilots or drawing people in to join and to train them up to fight against, insurmountable odds against the Empire. I think it'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
As long as I get to see those awesome bombers again.
Yes. Well, we'll see.
And having said that, there was one thing absent.
One thing
from there
we didn't hear from this announcement
was the Rian Johnson trilogy.
What happened? What happened?
He's out there slamming his outhouse door right now, kicking the dog. He's can't understand what's happening.
No, that's true. Of everything.
As he looks over and Favreau is putting his butt over his fence and dropping a turd over and saying, this is your Star Wars. You live with it.
Well, I got to think, if of everything they announced yesterday, if this was something that was actually in the pipeline, they would have said something.
I mean, maybe. I mean, like I said, the Boba show that was kind of rumored wasn't announced, so they might be holding some stuff back. For the fans.
They know people will be excited about a Boba Fett series now. Yes. And would people be excited about a Rian Johnson trilogy?
No, you'd have people.
No.
I mean, we're in the age of protest, so who knows what would happen to Disney corporate.
I mean,
yeah. So that was not announced. Rogue Squadron arrives in theaters Christmas 2023. So that's their targeting for that. But
that's the next movie.
That's the next
one that we
theatrical feature. But by the time we get to Rogue Squadron in 2023, we're going to have already seen dozens of hours of streaming Star Wars content.
Now, I'm hoping we don't get Star Wars fatigue. I mean, I don't think I'm going to get fatigued by it, but, it could certainly get in the mud a little bit.
It's certainly possible, because one thing I remember pretty much throughout the 90s, Star Trek burned itself out. In 1994, you had The Next Generation going off the air immediately into a movie. You had Deep Space Nine on the air, and a month into 1995, you had Star Trek Voyager, and you had it never stopped. And by the end of the 1990s, they really started to burn out. And I think with Star Wars, though, we're getting shorter seasons. We're no longer locked into like the 24 episode season.
Yeah, they're more like movies.
Yes. And hopefully, like Matt said,
in some ways better than movies because it's longer. But it's not too long.
With these streaming shows, the great thing about them is you can consume them at your pace. Right now, if you want to watch 8 hours worth of The Mandalorian, you could go in your living room and do it. Or you could watch 30 minutes a week. So I think it's just kind of a different landscape today. And like Matt, like you suggested earlier, I think they can space these shows out. So you have maybe Ahsoka season 1 for 8 to 10 weeks. You take a month or two off. Then you bring in the Rangers show for another 10 episodes. You take a month off. Then you bring in Obi-Wan. Mm-hmm. And take another month off. And after that, it's time for The Mandalorian again.
I mean, let's hope that that's how they roll it out. Because to your point, and an excellent point with Star Trek, when you're overlapping the customer or the consumer and, you're inundating them nonstop, it doesn't matter how different the shows are, how much they go into different places or timelines. It's too much. You burn them out. Mm-hmm. So let's hope we don't burn out Star Wars, guys. And
well, I have to say, I remember when it was announced that Disney bought it, and they were announcing, we're going to do movie every 2 years. We're going to do the trilogy movie and then put a one shot. And I just remember the excitement out of all of that. So I have to admit, even though Mandalorian's great, I'm still cautious in my expectations because they got me once. So, and this is a lot of stuff to have like
Good point.
to for them all to be all be winners.
The good news, at least, is that what was the first movie that they put out from Disney?
Force Awakens.
It was
Force Awakens.
The Force Awakens. I think, and they had some successes. Rogue One was good. Solo was, not received terrific, but we like it. But I think if you look at like The Mandalorian is setting a high bar, and I think
the same thing happened with the movies. The Force Awakens was good. Rogue One was great, and then we got kicked right in the balls.
Yeah, but you know what? The Force Awakens, which I enjoy, I really like it, was kind of a clone rip of A New Hope.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
There wasn't a lot of originality in the writing. It had a potential, but it wasn't exactly like a really unique Star Wars story. I mean, you kind of you're familiar. You're like, I'm going along with it because it's Star Wars. But like when you start seeing what you get out of like The Mandalorian, where they're deep diving, getting in the real weeds of Star Wars with what the fans know and what they want to see. See, this is the stuff that they can take advantage of. And like I said, they're setting a high bar with the fans when you get a show like this. So if I was a director of Obi-Wan, or if I was handed the show Ahsoka, and I'm looking at The Mandalorian, I'm challenging every single person on my crew and actor to do this and better, because that's what they're going to rate it against. Not the movies. They're going to rate it against that.
Mhm.
Well, if you look at like Rogue One, because you really felt with the sequel trilogy, they were deliberately trying to isolate themselves or distance themselves from the prequels. But if you look at Rogue One, I mean, there was a lot of fan service. I mean, when you got Walrus Man and Dr.
Evazan.
In there with that amazing little cameo where like they're like trying to start another fight.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the stuff that the fans love.
Yeah, of course. And that's what the fans deserve.
And whenever I see a film critic go, "Oh, there's too much fan service," it's like,
Hey, that sounds like a show we should tackle sometime. Fan service. Be on the lookout for that, listeners.
Well, this is great news.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited. And it's hard I'm still digesting it all, and I got to go watch some trailers now.
And I'm in a place now where I'm okay. And this was not the case maybe 10 years ago. I'm okay. There's now been Star Wars movies produced that I'm not a real fan of. And
yeah.
It's okay because I'm kind of at peace with that now.
Yep.
And I'm not wishing that everything that I don't like fails, but I've given myself permission that, if I don't like something, then it's not for me. But I still have all this other stuff that definitely is for me. Because, if I don't like this anime series, then that's not going to really break my heart, because I still have hours and hours of stuff that I do like. And I think that's kind of how I've grown as a fan. It's like I don't have to turn myself into a pretzel to make myself enjoy something I don't like.
To hear Jared say this, by the way, after knowing him for so long, is a big, big admission. I mean, this is a true epiphany of a
Yes,
statement, folks. There was a time where you could not besmirch anything.
Matt used to call it wearing my George Lucas mask. Because every time Matt was going to say something about the prequels or the Clone Wars that he thought was going to, sting me a little bit, he's like, okay, now look, try to take off your George Lucas mask here for a second.
But I'm glad that you've come to that realization. But at the same time, everyone, we're all big Star Wars fans. So, but at the same time, with so much around, you can't like it all. I mean, listen, I'm not going back and pulling up my VCR to watch the Ewok movies.
Correct.
But I'll get a kick out of them if I see them.
DVD.
But wait, you guys have DVD players?
Yes.
So rocking
physical
the VHS?
media. Physical media, Matt. It's the future.
Anyways, I'm excited about all the announcements from Disney. Good for them.
Yeah.
Good for us. Good for
Good for
Star Wars.
Disney. Good.
Look, because
they need that bump.
we lived through the era where a hardcover novel was a big deal, and now they just dropped 10 new shows and 2 new movies on us. So how could you complain about that as a fan that was born in the 1970s? So
That's true.
if you don't like it,
Well-
move along. And if you love it, then hold it tight to your heart, just like I do The Mandalorian every night.
That's true. Well, that's your
Hey,
way.
wait.
Well, listen, hey, season 3 is rapidly coming to a close. We only have a few episodes left.
Yeah.
And if you want to pick up a shirt, coffee
Hey.
mug,
It's the holiday season. I think you could still get stuff for Christmas if you're listening to this when it's released.
you can. So go on to thehyperspace.net. Check it out. We've got all kinds of great merchandise for you. Show your love for the podcast. Tell your friends. Leave a comment, review. We're on YouTube. We're on every podcatcher you can imagine. So share it with your friends. Let them know. Let them know that we're spreading the good word in the 25th century.
Hey, guys, can I say something here for a second?
Yes, George.
Uh,
What is it?
That hyperspace store. You got any?
No, we
He's
don't
got-
have any of her panties. No.
Son of a.
Get out of here.
You bastard! Give me some money.
God, George.
All right. We'll see you next week, everybody.
You know you can't live without this content, so subscribe to The Hyperspace, podcasting in the 25th century. Follow us on social media, leave us a review, and join us here next time as we take you into the 25th century.